I finished my shorts, but I've now moved on to this dress where I'm doing this stamp inspired pattern, and I'm doing the same technique, so let me show you exactly what I'm doing. I got these fabric markers from Amazon. They're nothing special. I don't really love them, but I also don't hate them, and the ink has stayed pretty well, and there's lots of colors. I'm using this pen to trace some of my designs out before drawing them, and that is a drafting pen for sewing that will wash away. Now on to my designs. I used a piece of paper to kind of sketch out each illustration before doing it on my garment, and I did that for my shorts as well. And then I just go for it. Like I said, sometimes I use that other pen to draw it out first, but that normally is just when I'm doing lettering, I'll use that. If I'm just doing like shapes, I'll just take my shapes one line at a time. See here, I didn't really mirror that squiggled the best way, but it's okay. When it's a lot of them all over the dress, you don't really notice. So that kind of is the same thing for the shorts as well. There's so many little small imperfection moments, but when you're doing a pattern, it's hard to focus on all of those. You kind of just see the whole thing. And now I'm just doing some little like detailing on here. One thing to note about these pens, they don't really overlap well color-wise, so I tried to not put the colors on top of each other because then they just started to bleed. But maybe with other fabric markers, that would be okay. Now for this dress, spacing wasn't really an issue because I just was putting each illustration into a wavy border, but for my shorts, spacing definitely was key. I would practice spacing on a sheet of paper, and then you could always lay that piece of paper over your garment to kind of eyeball where you want your next piece. I think when things are spaced incorrectly, that's when it starts to look a little messy or messed up. So definitely practice your spacing. And like I mentioned before, my fabric markers do bleed when the colors touch each other. So I would do part of my illustration with the one color and then switch markers to the second color and then switch back to the first color to avoid any bleeding. And this whole video is happening in real time. I'm not speeding it up or slowing it down. So this illustration took me 3 minutes. They're definitely small, quick line illustrations. There's nothing fancy about it, but I think once all of these small line illustrations are put together on the garment, that's when the whole magic happens. In my personal style, I like to use lines and dots to kind of add shadow and texture to make it a little less flat, but that's just my personal preference. Most of the time when I finish my little illustration, I'll look at it and say, oops, something is missing. So in this case, I added a little rimmed border to the top of my vase, and I just think it looks a lot more put together this way. To set your fabric markers so they don't wash away, you use an iron, and I'm going to make a whole nother video on that.